Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. Our current session focuses on the term code. Well, I hope and expect by the end of this session you would be able to understand the term and its significance in sociolinguistics. My dear students, it is possible to refer to a language or a variety of a language as a code. Well, this is the simplest of the definitions of a code, and the term code is useful in the sense that it is very neutral in its nature. How is it neutral? We can understand this by comparing it with other terms that are used in sociolinguistics. So, for example, if we look at the terms such as dialect, vernacular, language, style, standard language, pidgin, and creole, we can understand that each of these terms has certain connotations attached to it. For example, if we think about a dialect, it gives rise to the connotations of being a variety that is non-standard and a variety that is generally considered to be in a form that is not written. It also invokes the connotations of being a regional variety or a social variety. In the same way, if we think of the term pidgin, for example, a pidgin is a language that emerges out of two languages. It is a kind of a combination that emerges out of two languages when the speakers of language A and B cannot mutually understand each other. They create a third code, a new code, and that is used for communication. Now, as compared to these languages, terms that are used for referring to different varieties of language, if we think of the term code, it is very neutral because the term code can be used for a dialect, for a vernacular, a standard variety of language, for a pidgin or a creole, or for that matter, for any of other terms like this. As far as the origin of the term is concerned, the term code is taken from information theory, and it can be used to refer to any kind of system that two or more than two people employ for communication. Now, this is another definition actually of a code. What is a code? A code is a system that is used for the purposes of communication by more than one persons. That can be two or more than two people. Now, what is interesting is the factors that govern the choice of a particular code on a particular occasion. And I think this is what interests sociolinguists. With reference to sociolinguistics and the term code, there are certain questions that arise and that we need to ponder over. The first and the foremost important question is, why do people choose to use one code rather than another? So, people in their lives, if you look at the ground realities of the world, people know more than one codes generally, and they make choices of these codes. Now, why do people choose a particular code in a particular situation? Why do they make choice of one code over the other? These are important questions to think about in sociolinguistics. This leads to another question. What brings about shift from one code to another? Well, since most of the times people are bilinguals or multilinguals, they know more than one codes and they employ them in different situations. They also shift from one code to the other in any particular situation. So, for example, an Urdu speaker, when switches over to English, speaks English for a while and then switches back to Urdu. This is called code switching. And actually, from the term code, these two terms, code switching and code mixing, are coined to refer to this kind of mixture. Code switching, I have already explained what it is. When it comes to code mixing, it is the mixing of smaller level of, items, for example, words or phrases of one code into the other code. So, sociolinguistics deals with why do people shift from one code to the other, or why do people mix, the items of one code into the other. There is another question to think about. Why do they occasionally prefer to use a code formed from two other codes by switching back and forth between the two or even mixing them. So, what are the social factors, what are the social reasons that make them switch or mix or to make the choices? Such questions as these assume that there are indeed few single code speakers. Yes, this is right. In today's world, most of the people are either bilinguals or multilinguals. Because of the blurring of the boundaries, in terms of social contact, that has, increased through the processes of transportation and through the processes of communication and media, people now mostly speak more than one codes. And when they can speak more than one codes, then of course they make choices that suit the situation and that they find appropriate when they speak. In fact, my dear students, whenever you open your mouth, you must choose a particular language, dialect, style, or register, or any other variety that is a particular code, and this choice is not random. This has its own system, this has certain factors that work behind that trigger the choices. We can and will shift as the need arises from one code to the other. This is how human practices of using codes are. Within each code, there will also be possibility of choice. Within a code, what words, for example, we would choose, what kind of structure we would choose. This all depends on the situation and the context.